Hey there. So this reading, I'm hearing that it's for someone who has been releasing a lot of past energy, but is feeling like somewhat like haunted is the word that comes through. Kind of the images that come in with that is like not with like haunting, being the ghost presence of ghosts is less of like a sense of, oh, you're still like, disentangling your energy from, your ex who doesn't want to come pick up his belongings, or you're still getting, calls a million times a day from, this family member who's giving you shit for the way that you live your life. But it's more like feeling or experiencing like shadows of the past in like dreams or, synchronicities or things that like you notice that kind of like tie you back to the past and to, a certain energy there. So I guess that's who this reading is for, and we're going to kind of look at what's going on there and what may be helpful for you to know, or kind of like what's going on spiritually as far as why you feel like this is something that you've kind of like cleared out of your life physically, but you're still kind of experiencing these other like residual hauntings. So we have, my life unfolds in proportion to my courage. If I'm not failing, I'm not living my fullest life, and I will strive for progress, not perfection. Ace of Swords, Queen of Swords, Knight of Wands. So I think that there's something here about a part of this energy holding on to you that almost like you need to recognize. And it's like recognizing that the energy attached to you does not belong to you is going to allow you to fully separate yourself from it. It's like giving the example of like, say you're smelling peanut butter all day and you're like, why am I smelling peanut butter all day? I'm being haunted by that. And you don't realize that like you sat on someone's peanut butter sandwich and there is like literally peanut butter on your jacket. And it's like you have to recognize that peanut butter is, stuck to your jacket in order to identify like the source of the smell. And like the first step, I think, is acknowledging that like you're not crazy. And I think all of sort of the haunting, whether that is dreams, signs, sort of just like persistent anxiety or thoughts about a situation or person that you don't want to be involved with anymore, that you don't feel the desire to return to. You're not just smelling peanut butter because you're craving peanut butter. It's just there. Is a result of some of that like residual energy being stuck to you. And again, it feels like the only like thing that's really important here as far as removing that is recognizing. So I want to know like what is attached to you that is not you. Six of Cups, that's funny. It's like the past. The past is attached to you. Six of Cups, Seven of Swords, Six of Swords, Justice. So I think what you need to know about the person or situation that you were in, or with, however it resonates, was that there were more things that they were not being honest about than I think you fully realize. And I think that this person had an understanding of what was fair and what was right, and also what would happen if you knew the full story. And that was why there were things that were deliberately concealed or held back or misconstrued. And I think at the end of the day, you had enough information to make the choice that you needed to make. And I think that the reason that I'm even here, like telling you that, yeah, it actually kind of goes deeper than you thought it did, is not a matter of just, dogging on this person or, trying to change your mind, because if this is your reading, I'm talking to someone who sort of already made up their mind about the situation that we're talking about. I think that there may just be almost like levels of the energy that were not fully processed because they were not even, you know, fully made aware of. So you tell me more kind of about this deception. Four of Cups, Ten of Pentacles. Don't really like that. Don't really like that. The Emperor and the Sun. You know, I think that if this was a person, they were always kind of ambivalent about the things that they told you were the most important to them, and about showing up in a way that would make those possible. So, like, if this was a partner, you know, maybe you broke up because they cheated on you, but you had kind of been, like, holding in your mind this idea that, well, if we hadn't broken up, you know, we both had this dream of owning a farm and having, you know, 2 kids together. They didn't really give a shit about the farm or the kids, is kind of the energy as well. And that was part of the reason why they cheated on you. You know, in that example, it was like they were unenthused about who they had to be in order to... Oh, there's a black cat that's walking just outside. Little synchronicity. I love when that little black cat shows up. They were unenthused about who they had to be in order to make things work. And rather than tell you, that's not who I want to be, or that's not what I really want, you know, they just kind of created problems elsewhere. And it might have been the problems elsewhere that, you know, eventually got you, you know, to the point of saying, I'm not going to do this situation anymore. You know, if this is like a family thing, it could have been like, oh, well, you know, I had to limit contact with my mother because, you know, she was just really critical of my career choice or my partner. That sucks. But, you know, I had always, you know, sort of dreamed of, you know, then bringing my kids over and, you know, we could have this big, happy, multi-generational holiday celebration. And it was like, you know, she was actually never really excited about that either. You know, this is almost like the energy of someone who doesn't say what's actually bothering them or doesn't have the self-awareness to acknowledge, this is how I want to show up, this is what's comfortable to me, this is what isn't. And instead kind of just creates like scapegoats with their avoidance. You know, like someone who is going and like, oh, I'm going to go and get drunk every night because I don't want to, you know, admit that I don't like the job that I'm doing and I want a career change. Or someone who's like, I'm going to, you know, neglect my relationship within the home. And just constantly go out with my friends all the time because I don't want to admit that I didn't really want a relationship. And I think like that can make it hard, even if you've already decided that their behavior, for whatever reason, is enough of a deal breaker to just be a deal breaker to you. It's like still having this almost like false perception of this person as someone who, you know, wanted the same things as you, but maybe struggled with commitment or substance abuse or whatever else, you know, is a very different picture of the energy than someone who wanted something different, didn't have the courage to say that, and, you know, kind of dragged everyone along with them into this cycle of perpetuation of denial. Like those are very different situations. And, you know, I think like that's kind of like ties into these oracle cards that we have up here with my life unfolds in proportion to my courage. This person didn't have a lot of courage. They didn't have the courage to actually own what they wanted. And so they just sort of went along with, I guess I'll let someone else to decide what we want. I'll let someone else decide the direction for the relationship, for, the workplace, whatever else. And I think that there's also like a fear of failure for this person, and it feels like less intimidating for them to fail at something that they don't really care about. like, oh, maybe it doesn't work out with this, girl who's just very sweet and artistic and, has all of these, fun niche hobbies. But, my type was actually someone who's like really into, gaming and computer science. And so I don't feel as bad about, breaking the heart of, the cute, quirky, artistic girl, because I was never that invested. And it's nasty. It's nasty energy that's kind of like causing someone else to pay the price for the fact that this person just couldn't admit what they wanted. And, with the strive for progress, not perfection, I think that this person may have even kind of like coated themselves in layers of denial as far as saying, well, this isn't exactly what I want, but like it'll work out. Like it'll come back around. This is like the energy of someone who has a friend and, they don't actually do the things that they want. Like say they want a friend who shares their hobbies and shares their faith. And so they can, discuss their hobbies and discuss their faith. And, are then going and, leading someone who is wildly different in terms of their interests, their faith, into, believing, oh, like we're best friends. And they don't actually see them as a best friend. They're just kind of like, well, it's better than having no friends, which might hold some water if they were honest and upfront with the other person about, I see you more as like a casual friend, or, I'm interested in having these kinds of conversations with you, but they didn't. Whoever this is, they really like led you, the collective, to believe that whether it was as family, friend, coworker, whatever else, that, you were kind of their end game, or that there was some kind of shared end game. And I don't think that there was. And I think that knowing that is something that is going to allow you to kind of like shake this off, because it is kind of like you have been fighting one ghost, but it's like hard to confront and process fully when you don't fully know what exactly was going on, because I think that the issue here is almost like in energy. Energy doesn't lie. It is what it is, and it doesn't have like a physical form that deceives or conceals or anything else like that. Like it's pure spirit, pure energy, and there's no room there for deception. And it's like the energy of this relationship is, as I am reading it now, as I am describing it, and it's like that is what needs to be released. And if you're trying to release something of a completely different shape, it may feel sometimes, especially if it's something that's deeply rooted, that it's kind of like sticky, that it gets stuck, that it feels like, I don't know why I can't let this go. It's like, well, because you're trying to let A go, but B was what was holding on to you the whole time. So tell me some more about like what's going down for this collective as we are releasing the ghosts. 7 of Cups, 9 of Pentacles, 3 of Cups, 4 of Pentacles. Again, this feels like a little bit of a choice that isn't a choice, or a choice that's already been made. But I feel like it is almost like a reaffirming, and redrawing of like the boundaries surrounding this choice. Specifically prioritizing your autonomy and your happiness and your community, your fulfillment. And I think that like this is, as you're like coming to this realization, it's something that is going to help you to, I think, better draw those boundaries within yourself and going forward, and better articulate what it is that you want, that you need in order to feel stable. Because I think that there were ways that you felt unstable in this situation before that were hard to articulate because of the fact that you weren't getting the full story. So it's like, you're sitting here like, well, why do I feel so insecure about the future? when this person's telling me that they want the same things as I do, but then they're not acting like it, it's because they didn't really want it, and that's also why they weren't acting like it. You know, and now you can not necessarily determine everyone's motive right out the gate, no context, but I think have a better idea of the reason that you feel secure in your own goals on your own is because you know what you want, you're honest about what you want, and you strive for what you want. And the connections that you make that are positive, that are lasting, that are sustainable, are ones where, regardless of the intention, whether that's romantic, platonic, familial, career-related, you're approaching with honesty and with shared goals and with a willingness to act upon those and to perpetuate the shared goals and ideals and things like that, you know? And I think that some people don't have the courage to go for what they want. And some people have so little of that courage that they won't even admit what they want. I don't think that you're in that category. And I think that more and more it's going to become readily apparent, Knight of Cups, Ace of Cups, that you are valued for that courage, that you are beloved for that courage, and that kind of courage and excitement is something that incites the passion in others and something that inspires both emotion and action. Because I love the Knight of Cups. He's like the dreamy Prince Charming type. You know, he's going to be like sitting and reading poetry and galloping off into the sunset. But he's one of our Knight cards, which those are action cards. And we also have the Ace of Cups here. And this feels like you realizing and accepting that, like, people who really do deeply feel things, who do want things, who do have the courage and the capacity to go for them, that is reflected in their actions. And that doesn't mean that their actions are always going to be perfect. That doesn't mean that no one's ever going to fuck up. But it's like the action and the emotion match up when people are telling the truth and when people are being honest about what they want. And that actually drives the forward momentum, the progress, in a really positive direction. And I think that, like, you don't have to constantly feel like you're filling your cup in the absence of support, security, emotion from the other side. Because when someone is, you know, pouring from an authentic place, you feel that. Just like you feel it when they are moving, pouring, investing from a place that is more of an illusion, more of a lie that they're telling themselves. So I think that's about it for now. But hopefully that's helpful to someone as you're sort of processing these ghosts moving forward into the next chapter of your more authentic and fully embodied and supported journey. Wheel of Fortune on the bottom. You never know what might happen, so stay open, and yeah, hopefully this helps. Best of luck out there.